What's going on, everybody? This is Mr. Enigma, and you're listening to Mr. Enigma's Pop Culture Podcast. I have two guests with me today. I have Steph.
Hello.
I have Allie.
Hello.
And in the spirit of December, we're going to be talking about horror film sequels. What we want to talk about is that, as a whole, do horror movie sequels add or subtract from the original works we're talking about? We separated it into two different sequel types. We had sequels that directly follow the original, Halloween and Halloween 2, where it takes place almost seconds afterwards, minutes afterwards. And we have sequels that keep the presence of an important character or a major theme. A lot of the Freddy Krueger movies are like this. Nightmare on Elm Street and Final Nightmare, things like that. We've also broken it down into three different sections. We have monster movies. We have supernatural movies. These are mostly satanic possession, ghost possessions, anything that has to do with ghosts or demons or whatnot. And then we have slasher films, which is probably going to be the main meat of this entire podcast. All right, so how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. I've got my knitting and I'm ready to talk some horror.
Fantastic.
Also doing well.
Good. Okay, so first one I wanted to talk about. So I want to talk about the Halloween movies. That's all right with you guys. So the first Halloween movie is classic. And the second one follows after the first one. I feel like it was an extension of the first movie. The second one's not a problem. It really actually just adds on to the story as a whole, and it doesn't really add any variables or factors except for that they happen to be siblings, which is indifferent to the actual plot. Except for it gives Michael his reasoning for wanting to do this. Halloween 3 actually is that it's the only one that doesn't have Michael Myers in it, because funny, here check this out. So what happened is that when he created the films, he wanted it to be a story based on the event of Halloween, like the holiday. And it was going to be a different story, like an anthology almost, where it wasn't actually going to be connected except for the fact that they're all based on Halloween. They made the first two Halloween movies with Michael Myers to set the stage of, like, he made one and then he finished the story with two. And then when he came out with three, it has nothing to do with those. In fact, there's like this roll credit scene for the Halloween 2 that shows up on a TV in the third movie. Like, that is just a movie that happens to be in this universe. And the third one is about a crazy toys maker who makes masks that kill people. Or deadly masks. Well, no, I'm not going to say that they kill people. But yeah, so it didn't actually have Michael Myers in it at all. And people were livid. They were so upset. And that when they did it, everybody's like, well, where's Michael? Michael's not in this movie. So they scrapped it, and because he was so popular, the fourth one brings it back. And this takes place, I think it's 10 years later. And this is where they get weird, because they actually follow Michael Myers and Pink Panther have the same titles. Do you guys know this?
Like the animated Pink Panther?
They had old live-action movies with the guy with the mustache and everything like that.
Oh, okay.
So he had movies that were like this, and they all have the same names. Halloween 4 is The Return of Michael Myers, which coincides with The Return of the Pink Panther. And then you had Revenge of Michael Myers, which is the fifth one, which turns into Revenge of the Pink Panther. And then you have The Curse of Michael Myers, which is also The Curse of the Pink Panther.
That's very consistent.
Very, very consistent. I love it so much. Going back to 4, 5, and 6, 4 was fine. 5 and 6 added this cult element of druidic stylings, and they are lacking. They feel like they're very cut and paste. They're very slasher films, but they don't really. They have this like sub theme or subplot where Michael's homicidal tendencies come because he was part of a druidic ritual by this secret cult, and it's all I can say is they're not great. They're not great, and I feel like once you get to these points, you're like, okay, what was the original point of the first movie? And I don't blame them for having a bad 4, 5, and 6, because they didn't expect to be making movies about Michael Myers anymore. Like, that's just how it was. They're just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna make a different Halloween movie, and then they just kind of snowballed into Michael Myers. H20, which is the one that came out. It was the 20th anniversary of the killings and everything like that. Jamie Lee Curtis comes back for that one. It was really good. I'm not gonna say really good. It was pretty okay for a Halloween movie, comparatively to the three ones that came before it. And it ended with like Jamie Lee Curtis making the right decisions. Like, he goes, no, we need to kill him. She's like, we're gonna take Michael to the hospital. And she's like, no. She like hijacks this like ambulance. And they're like, okay. And then the second movie, which follows right after it, is Halloween Resurrection. This was to kill his sister.
So what? He's got nothing to do for the rest of the movie then?
Yes, not nearly as bad as Jason does in the Friday the 13th movies, but yes, pretty much. So he like goes on a killing spree because it's Halloween and he wants to. And then they made the Rob Zombie ones, which are not sequels, but remakes. The first one is almost a point-for-point remake. It's very, very similar in plot. The second one gets really weird, different. I'm not going to spoil how it ends, but it's not the same as the Halloween 2. Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 did not get the reviews that he was hoping, so he didn't make another one. And then now they have retconned the entire series except for the first movie. And now the new Halloween movie that came out a couple years ago is now Halloween 2, because Halloween 2 never happened in the hospital. And now Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends hadn't come out yet, so I can't judge that one. Halloween Kills, yes, it feels like it's like a battle between Jamie Lee Curtis's character and Michael through the entire thing. And I feel like that's like a good fixation that they have there. Because it's just two people battling it out, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily a slasher film anymore. He definitely kills plenty of people in this, but it's not like he's stalking them through the halls, kind of like creeping up on them. Like, he jumps up pretending to be dead and stabs a firefighter. Like, it's kind of like he just starts killing people, and Jamie Lee Curtis is like, well, we need to kill him now. But yeah, so on the whole, I feel like the Halloween movies have devolved into, I feel like only the second one in the newest 2 or 3 really helped the first one, because it really expands the universe of the character Michael Myers, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in all 5 of those, soon to be 5 of those. I feel like those ones are really good for like expanding the universe as a whole, if you wanted to keep it on the same plot, and it really delves into that kind of thing. The other ones are a fun slasher movie that gets really cheesy at times, so it's kind of unfortunate. Next, we want to talk about one of our monster movies.
Okay.
How did you feel about The Mummy?
The Mummy? I really enjoyed the original Mummy, the first Mummy. This was my first time ever watching it.
I want to clarify that this is the one with Brendan Fraser.
Yes, Brendan Fraser.
From the 90s.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want people to think you watch like The Mummy from like the black and white one, and then you watched Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy and.
What I believe was the original Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Yes. Okay. It's also not the one with Tom Cruise, which was not good.
Yes, he was not present in this film. But yeah, that was my first watch through of the movie. I thought it held up really well. The biggest complaints I had about it were minor nitpicks about some romantic 90s tropes that I don't enjoy, but outside of that, it surprised me with a lot of the horror elements. I didn't expect it to be as scary as it was, and I think if I had watched it as a child, it probably would have haunted me for a very long time.
It's one of the first movies I watched as a child, so.
Oh, that's a good first pick.
That's why things don't scare me nearly as much as they really should anymore. But my mom loved Brendan Fraser, and he was in George of the Jungle, so we just like, hey, we should make this jump immediately over to this, and then watch Encino Man afterwards. I'm like, okay, great. So you were telling me earlier that the second one did not have the same soul as the first one. How would you like to elaborate on that?
I felt like the characters lacked the humanity they had in the first film. They felt more fleshed out and more relatable as people. In the sequel, they seemed more to be generic action characters. The female character, in particular, the main female lead, instead of being this kind of like studious, inquisitive person with like a thirst for knowledge, she was just sort of reckless and didn't take into account the experiences from the past film in a way that I felt a reasonable person would.
Yeah. Oh, I get you. Like, it almost felt like she was like a generic cookie cutter female action hero.
Yeah.
Without any of the action. Like, she didn't do any of the stunts or anything like that.
There was one part in the beginning of the movie that I think really set the tone for me, where they're in the first tomb or whatever with their kid. I don't know why they would bring their kid to this tomb, considering their experiences with tombs. But she finds this box, and she's like, "Oh, what harm could opening a box do?" I'm like, "Do you not remember?"
Brendan Fraser remembers. Brendan Fraser remembers. Oh yeah, remember when we said, "What's the harm in reading a book?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing that happened before.
Yeah, like a lot of things, a lot of really traumatic things you should probably remember and consider with your child in the building.
Repressed.
Yep.
One of my main complaints is that the first one definitely had its action sequences. I definitely felt like the second one was an action movie with just the same characters.
Yeah.
It even, like, the first one definitely felt like it had the horror theme, like the grotesque, like, rotting flesh on the zombie or the mummy.
The scarabs going.
The scaring him,
flesh.
like, crawling up on your face and stuff like that. You're like,
Yeah.
okay. The dude's hand getting torn apart inside the. That's in the second one, but it's not particularly. It doesn't add very much.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't instill fear in you. I never, while I was watching the sequel, did I feel any suspense. I always felt like the characters were going to come out on top because it was an action movie, and they always win. Exactly.
I think one of the main things that happened is that, like, they didn't have nearly as big of a cast. So, like, if you're thinking about the first one, not only do you have Brendan Fraser and his group, you also had the other opposing group, which was the Americans.
Yes.
And all of those guys, and those guys were taken out one by one.
Yes.
When you're watching the second one, you have Brendan Fraser and his crew, which none of them are touchable, and you had 3 bad guys, who are the ones who died, and then everybody else is just like no-name characters. Like, hey, I'm the mummy's servant.
Yeah, there was really no weight of consequence. Everybody was going to make it out if they were the good guy. There was never any shadow of a doubt.
Exactly.
Even when it seemed one of them wasn't going to make it, they still make it.
They still make it, yeah. If you wish hard enough.
Yes.
So, for closing thoughts, I'm guessing we're on the same page that the second one did not particularly hold up.
No.
And did not benefit the original or anything like that. It felt like they were 2 different movies that happened to share the same name.
Yeah, it was a popular movie, and they made another movie because it made money. And
there you go.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yep. I know you haven't seen the third one, so I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of it. They find mummies in China.
Of course they do. And of course they're going to go mess with more mummies because they haven't had enough of the mummies yet.
Yeah, but this one, their son is an adult now. They replaced the actress for the wife. She's not in anymore. Different one. She stays home, and it's just Brendan Fraser with his son fighting this Chinese emperor, who also happens to be a mummy and has an army of stone soldiers.
Can you imagine running into 3 separate mummy curses? That's just bad luck.
I will say, in the third, like the third one definitely felt the same way, where it's just like it's almost like an action comedy where they're going through the steps of fighting this mummy. There's no real scary parts of the entire thing, and it just kind of ends with like, oh yeah, happily ever after, we defeated the curse. I will say that there is one joke in the entire movie that gets me every time, and it's Jonathan, the brother-in-law.
I enjoyed him in the first film.
Yes, he makes this joke. He's like, you know what? I'm moving to Chile because there's no mummies in Chile. And then like they're like, yeah, 2 years later, mummies were discovered in Chile. And it's like, great.
Of course they were.
Yeah. So the first one was great, and then they made the other 2, and they made plenty of money. So it's not like they were Oh yeah, that was a disclaimer I wanted to place. Just because these movies are bad does not mean that they did not make a lot of money and weren't successful. So we wanted to emphasize that we're not saying that because all these movies made plenty of money for the people who made them. That's why they keep making these movies. That's why we have 7 Saw movies and 8 Halloween movies and all these different things. Like they make money. There's no reason not to make them. Mm-hmm. We're just saying whether or not they're good or not. Or not even if they're good or not. Some of them are very good. Like one of my favorite movies is Army of Darkness, which is Evil Dead 3. Mm-hmm. And it is not. It is not anything like the first one. And I feel like if you had just shown me those two, and you're like, hey, does the third one help support or make the first one better in like when you're like watching it? The answer is absolutely not. The first one is terrifying, and I had to sleep with a light on. And then I watched the second one. I'm like, oh, this is like, he had a little bit of humor. That's cool and everything like that. And then the third one, he's fighting skeletons with a shotgun in medieval times. And you're like, okay, well, this kind of turned into like a weird, dark comedy, which a lot of horror films do that. And yeah. I'll get to that when I get to one of my there are actually 2 or 3 of my other topics. So now we're going to go to the supernatural movies. Steph, which one did you want to pick first?
Since I watched it most recently, let's go with Sinister about things.
How did you feel about the first one?
First one, I watched in theaters, and I feel like I liked it at the time. I was, in my teens? And honestly, as a person, I, 1, can't guess any plot twists. I just can't. I take everything at face value. And
You're
2,
so lucky.
Cannot is the blessed curse of, oh my god, I couldn't see it coming. And then 2, I'm just like, everything I see is probably great unless I hate it. I hated the second one. So first one, great plot twist. Didn't see any of it coming. Maybe I should rewatch it now. Like, I guess I would still know it because I've seen it. But being a teenager, I was like, oh my god, that's, terrifying. And oh, wow. But not like too gory. Like, traumatic scenes, but not too gory. And then I watched the second one. And because they had done the plot twist and there was nothing else to go from there, they like took one of the side characters, made him the main character, traveled, and continued the curse is now in this family. He thinks it's probably going to happen here. And so I'm like, okay, so the kid's going to do this. That's going to happen. I know what this formula is. And then 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh, here's the plot twist, which I never guessed. So I felt very smart, but also sad that I guessed it, which makes me think that someone else would get it in 3 minutes. And then part of both movies is like the snuff films, right? They're like, who's shooting these snuff films of their families? And so that's already discovered. And so I'm like, okay, there's no plot twist here. And so they're just going to focus on the snuff films and just get real creative. Like, it turned from this weird, I'm going to watch these old Super 8 films and it's going to be mysterious and there's going to be a bunch of jump scares, which I'm fine with. I'm good with jump scares. And then the second one, which is, how many creative ways can we have what they now know to be the killer, have them do just creative deaths that make you want to vomit? So it's just 2 totally different movies trying to do the same plot twice, which was weird.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Yeah. I'm going to go on a quick tangent really quick, because not about those movies in particular, but actually a funny fact enough, about another monster movie. Mm-hmm. I went and saw A Quiet Place with Megan in theaters, mm-hmm. and oh my god, I'm sitting there, and that scene where she pulls the nail up on the stairs, I freaked out, because that's one of my biggest fears is stepping on a nail. Yeah. Like bar none, biggest fear, stepping on a nail. I'm like, okay, well, she pulls up the nail, and I hide into Megan's arm, and she's like, what? Nothing happened yet. And I'm like, no, something's going to happen, and I need to leave right now. I cannot do this right now. And she's like, what's going on? And I just kind of huff and sit back in my chair. I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna find out. And then when she steps on a nail, Megan's like, oh, and she freaks out. She's like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, why didn't you know? How did you not know that this was gonna happen? Yeah,
I do not see that shit coming.
It's just, oh gosh, I was so upset about that exact moment. Also plot twists never really unless it's really good, mm-hmm. really well done. I'll be halfway through, I could be okay, I know who the bad guy is because I know the formula.
Mhm.
Like, I know it's definitely not the guy you expect it to be, and I know it's definitely not the guy you would expect it to be if it's not that person. So it's obviously narrowed down to this person. The one that got me was, I think it's called Silent Dead. It's about the witch who tears off people's tongues, the ventriloquist with the puppets.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
And she tears out people's tongues and the puppets move
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think I'm going to have to look up what this is. We'll fix it in post. I'll look really smart in post.
Uh-huh.
But like, I'm trying to figure out, like, gosh, like, did he solve it? I'm like, oh, cool, he solved it. And they through the entire movie, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, cool, he got it all figured out, and everything's fine now. And like I still have like 10 minutes left of this movie. What's going on? I'm like, okay, and then he goes to see his dad and everything like that, and like the plot twist at that moment. Not spoiling it for you guys because I really think you guys should watch it. I actually stood up. I was sitting on my couch and I stood up and I'm like, what? What? Who? It got me. Like, I really was not expecting this person to, like, it to come out to be this person being the villain through the movie, and I was very excited. Let's jump into one of mine really quick. I'm actually going to talk about two at the same time. We're going to talk about Friday the 13th, and we're going to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, because they intersect at one point. In the highest grossing film for either franchise, Freddy vs. Jason. Not a good movie. Made a lot of money. What I really liked about the Friday the 13th films is that the first film, Jason isn't the killer. It's his mom. Because Jason died in the lake when teenagers who were having sex and getting drunk. And the second one takes place almost immediately after. It's another one of those sequels that takes immediately. And what happens is that Jason watches his mom die at the end of the first one. So we're watching it from his perspective. And then he's like, teenagers killed my mom. I should start killing every teenager that comes around here.
Reasonable.
Logical.
So we have that happen. And the first and second one, I really appreciated. Like, they're really good for what they were. They were a generic slasher film based at a camp at a lake. Then they get kind of like, I feel like they kind of lost where they were wanting to go with it, because now Jason just goes to, like, the third one takes place a little bit after. I think it's the same day or so, like that. Maybe it's the next day. He goes to just a cabin that's on the lake and starts killing teenagers having a party at this cabin on the lake that have nothing to do with the camp or anything like that, and they kind of just like falling out of it. It just gets a little weird. Then I think it's the fourth or fifth one. I haven't watched these ones nearly soon, like recent enough. But Corey Feldman's in it as a kid. I don't know if you guys knew who Corey Feldman is.
Sounds familiar.
He was in Goonies as Mouth. He was in Lost Boys. He's one of the Coreys. There's Corey Hines and Corey Feldman. They were in a lot of things together. He thinks he's Michael Jackson now. It's a little weird. Anyway, he's in that one and he's the kid. Jason comes back. Or there's a killer that comes back that is doing the same thing as Jason does. And everybody assumes it's Jason has been resurrected from the dead. We find out that it's actually somebody else. And you're like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. And people also think it's him. The character's name's Tommy. So everybody thinking, oh, it's also Tommy. Like, Tommy's being awfully suspicious in this movie. He's probably killing people because he's traumatized by having to survive a serial killer who was killing teenagers in the cabin next door to his.
Makes sense.
And then people didn't like that. And so they jumped to the fourth one, one of them. And he goes, like, Tommy's crazy and goes to where Jason is buried, digs him up to make sure he's dead. He's going to burn the body to make sure he's dead. Freaks out, starts stabbing with this rod. Mind you, he's been dead for years.
Sure.
Stabs it, and then he gets struck by lightning, and Jason comes back to life as a zombie. And this is where it goes from slasher film to absolutely ridiculous. He goes on a rampage. They find out that he's unkillable now because he's a zombie. Go figure. So they chain him up, and he is on the bottom of the lake. They chain him up and toss him in the lake, and he's chained down there forever. Then the next one, a girl, young teenager, preteen almost, has psychic powers and brings him back and lifts him out of the lake with her psychic powers. And then has to survive the serial killer. And then he ends up back in the lake, chained up. And then a boat is coming through the lake and picks him up on the anchor. And then this one is Jason goes to Manhattan. Jason takes Manhattan.
Oh my god.
So the boat, it only has like a few minutes of him in Manhattan in the movie. Most of the movie is him on a boat killing teenagers who are going to Manhattan from the lake.
I'm just picturing him in like a tailored suit with a trim skirt and a little briefcase, and he's just ready to go to the upscale apartment.
Ready
Yeah.
for Manhattan.
Him sitting there like looking at his watch waiting for his taxi.
Yep.
I'm also getting Jurassic Park, which one, 2 or 3 vibes, where it's like 3 minutes in New York and he's
Yeah.
killed the entire boat.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay, well. Yeah, 2, and I think they went to San Diego.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yes. Also, very good, where they're just like, hey, they're coming to the mainland. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Which is one thing I appreciate about the King Kong movie with Jack Black, is that movie is 3 hours long, which is way too long for a movie to be about a giant gorilla. But like, at least they have like an hour of it being inside the city.
Right.
Even if it was 2 hours in the jungle and then it was an hour in the city, like at least it happened.
Somebody made that comment on the production team. They're like, okay, we have a 2-hour movie. Here's the thing.
If we just bring him here, he climbs a building and then dies in 15 minutes.
Right.
No, everybody's gonna hate it. Everybody hated it anyway. So he goes to Manhattan, and it's not even like he's a killer in Manhattan. He's just like a disgruntled New Yorker. Like he's just walking and like people are like listening to rap music on a boombox. He just like walks, just like punts the boombox. It's like kicks it across. Everybody's like, what? He just like turns around, looks at them, and they're like, okay, never mind. He like then turns around and walks away, and you're like, okay, well, which was weird. I think he was trying to transfer his body into somebody else's body, which is a very common thing. They do it in the Child's Play movies with Chucky. He's trying to get a human body back and all these other things. And then you have Freddy versus Jason, which means we should probably jump over to Freddy Krueger so we can get through that one as well. I love the first one because it is a masterpiece. Wes Craven really also did the Scream movies. You guys didn't know that. And Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy and Angela Bassett. It is not nearly as scary as you think it would be. Still very good. But yeah, Nightmare on the Street, very good movie. Johnny Depp's in it with his crop top. Very good.
First thing I think of when I think of that movie.
Johnny Depp crop top and a bed of his own blood.
I knew going into it that he was in that movie. It took me till the final 10 minutes to realize. I was like, wait, that's Johnny Depp.
That's him? And that movie just ends the way I wanted it to. No spoilers. Go watch the movie if you haven't yet. But it ends perfectly. Like I'm like, oh, this movie is fine by itself. And then it made a lot of money and was very popular. And so they rushed the second one, which didn't really, it kind of like steered away from the killing people in dreams and turned into now he can possess people's bodies while they're asleep. There's a lot of things about that movie that are bad. One of the specific things is that there was one of their main actors was in the closet, and the movie was very homoerotic in some sequences. That was like he wasn't ready to confront that, and you're like, okay, well, like
For movie clarification, he was like metaphorically in the closet. He was not like in a closet
yes,
getting murdered.
yes,
Okay, thank
yes.
you.
No. That is a different movie where people die in closets. Monster in the Closet. Go watch it. Fergie's in it. She's like 4 years old. She gets first 5 minutes to grab her and pull her into the closet. That's the last you see of Fergie.
The launch of her career.
Yeah, and so that one was kind of like, okay. And then you had Dream Warriors, which goes back to people dying in their sleep. It was very good. Dream Warriors was good. Can't remember what the fourth one was called. Another dream one. And then the last one is the fifth one is Dream Child. The fourth one, the heroes in the story did not feel like they were written as well as they could have been. Not that it was necessarily bad. This is also where Freddy starts getting all of his dark sense of humor, where he's just kind of like a cartoon character killing people, which really shines in a lot of his later films. And then you got Dream Child. Dream Child is really bad. It's the fifth one. It is the least feminist of all of the movies. There's a lot of assault towards women in it, like how Freddy came to be when his mom was pregnant with her. A lot of bad things happened to her. I'm not going to bring it up right now. All these other things about how he came to be, because the main character is pregnant and having these visions of Freddy and all these other things. Then you have, I think the next one was technically Freddy versus Jason, which everybody has forgotten about Freddy, and so he can't haunt people's dreams because you have to know about him for him to haunt your dreams. It's kind of the nightmare rules. So what he does is he contacts Jason. It's like, hey, what up? I need you to go to Elm Street and start killing people really quick for me. Jason doesn't say anything because he doesn't talk, but he kind of just agrees and starts killing people, which reminds people of Freddy. And then Freddy can get into their dreams, and then they start getting in each other's way of killing people. They're like, hey, I wanted to kill this guy. It's like, too bad, I'm killing this guy. The movie itself was really funny, not particularly scary, and all of the teenagers were slaughter fodder. They didn't have personalities. They were just cookie-cutter characters that were there to die for Freddy or Jason to kill them, which is unfortunate because technically they're supposed to be the main characters, and then the other ones are the antagonists. You're not supposed to see yourself in the seat of the monster. You're supposed to see yourself in the seat of the survivor. That's what makes movies scary. If I wanted to be the ghost in, Woman in Black and not Daniel Radcliffe, it doesn't make the movie scary.
That'd be kind of fun haunting Daniel Radcliffe.
I mean, of all the people to haunt, right?
Yeah.
It feels like they just went for like the King Kong versus Godzilla monster movie of like, nobody cares about the people in this. Nobody's here for that. They just want to see who would win. That's where we came with
Alien vs. Predator?
well, that, and also like Death Battles or something on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's some weird
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah.
The next Friday the 13th movie, we're jumping back. I think it was Jason X is in space. Like he's frozen and then goes to the future with the other person who froze him because he can't die. He's a zombie. So they freeze him. He goes back. He wakes up in space and starts killing people, and they have to figure out a way to kill him. And I think that's the last one that they've come out with up until now. Like, I don't think they've come out with another one with that Jason storyline, because that movie was just so bad that they just decided to put a stop to that. So Freddy's story continues to The Last Nightmare, where he's trying to get his daughter to join the family business of killing people. There's also New Nightmare. Well, first they tried to remake it, and it was bad. And then they made New Nightmare, which is Wes Craven only directed two of them. He directed the first one, and he directed New Nightmare. Those are the best ones. Wes Craven works wonders with these kind of movies. So most of those movies, I still don't like most of the Scream sequels.
That's fair.
Okay, I'll get to that. And not because they're not good movies, but because of the meta of them. Like, they're supposed to be making fun of slasher films, and then they turned into what they were not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
They turned into what they were making fun of.
You live long enough.
Yeah, to become the villain. But yeah, that's basically what they have fallen into. I think I've covered all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies as well, which means we're going to go to our next monster movie.
Okay, Ghoulies is a movie that was trying to capitalize on the hype of Gremlins. It's basically a Gremlins ripoff, and there are 4 of them, and that is the single most disjointed movie series I have ever seen in my life. Each movie can exist independently of the others, and it would not matter whatsoever. But for some reason, they all are named Ghoulies, despite being almost completely lacking in similarities.
Do they have the same monsters or anything? Or?
The first 3 have the same monsters. The 4th have random new monsters using the Ghoulies' names, but they're not the Ghoulies. They don't do anything Ghoulie-like. In fact, it's weird that they're even in the movie, because they're a B plot to a satanic magic cop movie, which is nothing like Ghoulies 1 through 3. Which is okay. Can I just like break it down?
Break it down. For me.
Okay, all right. Ghoulies 1. There's a married couple. They're in this house. The house is evil. It's like the burial ground of some like ancient evil magic dude, and he gets possessed by the spirit and summons the ghoulies and uses the ghoulies to carry out murders. And it's very cheesy and hackney. There's a couple of decent kills in it, but they're all kind of more on the silly side. The second movie takes place in a theme park, and there is no more demon guy. The ghoulies they're just there. I don't really remember why, but they're just murdering kids in this theme park in this particular ride. It's a lot. The ghoulies are a lot more sinister and a lot more scary in the second one. The second one's the only one where the ghoulies are actually like, whoa, these ghoulies, they're mean. They're gonna stab you. Like they're out to kill. Third one is ghoulies go to college. They go from, like, you think it's gonna progress and be like, okay, the ghoulies like get into their niche here. They're evil, murdering, scary little monsters that you have to. No, the third movie is basically just softcore porn.
Jesus Christ.
It's the ghoulies drinking beer and looking at boobs, and that's basically the whole movie. They don't. I don't think they kill anybody. I don't think they kill anybody in that entire movie.
Too busy drinking and looking at boobs.
It was gratuitous. It was a lot.
That's when I stopped killing people.
Yeah.
When I discovered the internet.
It's a coming of age story.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And as I said before, the Ghoulies 4 was just a cop movie with 2 new puppets that looked nothing like the original 3 Ghoulies puppets, whose designs had stayed consistent through the first 3, even though their backstory and motives and personalities weren't. Now they were like 4 purple trolls about the size of children, just putzing about. I don't even think they ever intersect with the main plot, which is this cop who's like, yeah, he's a drunk and he doesn't care about his job, and his girlfriend turns out to be like working for a demon, but the demon is actually him and it's his evil side, and they get separated in like some kind of cult ritual, and I don't think the Ghoulies ever actually come back into that plot. I don't know why it's even called a Ghoulies movie. I'm pretty sure everyone who got a hold of the Ghoulies title just took the money and did whatever they wanted, because they could just get away with it. They were just like, one guy wanted to make a porn, one guy wanted to make a cop movie, and one guy legitimately wanted to make a slasher film.
That's wild.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
We're going to start a petition now for a fundraiser to get the IP for Ghoulies.
Yes,
We're
please.
gonna make Ghoulies 5.
Ghoulies 5, please.
Ghoulies 5. It's gonna be a Western rom-com,
Great.
Yes.
and they're all just gonna be all the Ghoulies are gonna start talking, and they're all gonna look like Grimace from the McDonald's commercials.
That's perfect. And it would match seamlessly with the previous Ghoulies movies.
Holy shit.
But yeah, I would recommend watching that if you have literally nothing else to do and you want to see some of the stupidest movies I've ever seen in my life. They weren't not entertaining,
Sure.
but they were bad movies. They were really bad.
Reminds me of a joke from there's a show that I watch that's made by Loading Ready Run called Commodore Hustle. It's on YouTube. They're great. Like, if you ever get a chance to listen to Loading Ready Run, they're very funny. They have this joke where they're like, hey, you want to go with me to someplace? And he's like, no, I've just got the entire collection of Star Trek Next Generation movies, and I'm going to watch all the good ones. He goes, I will see you in 111 minutes.
Damn. Roasted.
So are you saying that the Ghoulies sequels built on or helped the original at all? Do you think it made the first one better at all?
No.
No.
No, I do not. I honestly don't know how they could have made money or why they would make 4 of them.
Somebody rolled a fucking nat 20 in their charisma. Like, no, I just made this movie. It's called Ghoulies. You haven't heard of it because you live under a rock. America loves it. Canada loves it. The entire world. Trust me. Here you go.
I think the part that bothered me the most was all of the covers show one of the ghoulie monsters in a toilet. Which is why I clicked on the first place. I was like, that is Toilet Monsters.
Toilet monsters. Were they in a toilet in any of the movies?
you get. I don't think you get a toilet. I think when ghoulies go to college, instead of being summoned by like a demon lord, somebody reads like a page of a comic book, and they come out of an evil toilet, and that's the most reference we get to the toilet, despite being on the cover of every ghoulies movie.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna switch over again to our supernatural movies. Which one would you like to talk about now?
Let's dive into Paranormal Activity.
I love diving into Paranormal Activity. I watched them out of order. I want to
Did
add.
you?
I watched the fourth one first.
Oh, and that's the webcam one, right? It's the
Or it's like the webcam one, and then there's also a bunch of nanny cams.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the third one is the last one I saw. Was that the one with the Hispanic family?
You know, they all came out in like the same 2 years. That I don't remember which one is which. I know. I just know that there's like the scene in the fourth one where like the girl's just like swaying, and it's like the lapse time is like speeding up so that you see her. She's probably standing there for like 20 minutes, just like lifts this dude's head, snaps his neck, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of fast forwarded standing around. I only realized there were 4 out of the 6, so now I'm gonna go home and watch those.
Make sure that there are actually 6 because I made up that number.
So there's one coming out, so I guess I can't watch all 6, but I think 5. I don't know. I'm probably saying everything wrong,
I'm gonna
but
look it up.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
please do.
There's one coming out, which I want to be my first in theater movie, if not Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, whatever. First one I was obsessed with. That was one of my first, in addition to When a Stranger Calls. That was like my second. Was Paranormal Activity. Was like, shit, horror is cool. And again, at face value, I'm like, oh my god, I just like suspend my disbelief so easily. I'm like, what if this happened in my house? And then I was worried going on because I was like, okay, they've done everything. I hate it when they show the monster later, but they just like kept the same formula, and as long as I was in the mood for it, they knew their audience. They're like, they want to see shit fly around, they want to see somebody get murdered at the end, and they want something that's a storyline that is disjointed in that it's like, again, for me, I don't get plot twists before they happen, but it's like, oh, these little girls were these people the whole time, you know, and it's so out of order time-wise. And so there's still plot twists, but I'm mostly here just for the flying pots and pans and the staring at someone while they sleep.
I think there's actually 7 of them.
There's 7.
Is the 7th one coming out soon, or is it?
The 7 one says 2021. It said it should have come out in February, but the film delayed until
Yeah.
October
Okay.
2021. It might be out.
So I think it might have just come out.
Yeah, it says it skipped a theatrical release and is released on Paramount Plus as an exclusive film.
Okay.
So now you have 3 new movies.
I do.
They haven't watched.
I don't know if you would count this, but there's also a Japanese sidequel apparently. Paranormal Activity 2: Tokyo Night.
What?
I've never heard of that, but that sounds interesting.
I'll
I'm
find
gonna
it.
try to find
Yeah.
that.
It's one of those things where like, is it like one of the things that I've always like been interested in that always messed with me that we should do a podcast on if there's enough of these reference or if there's enough of these out there. It's movies where there's a sequel that's animated.
Oh my god.
So if you look at like the Riddick movies, the first one's Pitch Black. The second one is animated.
Interesting.
It's just an animated movie, and then they came out with the Chronicles of Riddick after that, which is like the one that's like years later, and it's an action film and not a horror film anymore.
Right.
I did not mention Riddick or Pitch Black as a movie for you to look at for monster movies, but also very good if you end up deciding to watch it. Watch Pitch Black. Don't worry about Riddick. My brother loves the Riddick movies because he loves Vin Diesel. But I don't hate the guy, but he's definitely plays the same character in every single movie he's in.
He does this thing with his jaw where it's always just kind of like.
Yeah.
Which I realize you can't see because this is audio recording.
Allie looked like Grumpy Cat.
Yeah, it's like Grumpy Cat.
Yeah. Yeah. But yes, Paranormal Activity. I felt like they were too disjointed for me. Like, I feel like maybe I just didn't pay attention enough, or because I watched them in the wrong order.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I didn't have enough like continuation of the story. I feel like they were 4 separate ghost hauntings.
Interesting.
And I know that they kind of like expand on in the later ones that I have not watched yet, so I can't give my opinion on it. But I don't know. I feel like the sequels, like they used the name Paranormal Activity, and I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was like a Halloween 1 and Halloween 3 thing where they are about the same thing. They are under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
But not necessarily like we're not following the same character trying to solve ghost murders.
That's true. The characters are. Let's watch the other one soon.
Yes.
Because I also was like, oh, it's just a different family each time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all connected back to one woman who did one thing.
Oh.
So it is a familial connection with demons and bargains being happening.
Okay.
Which is why it's all in the family is the new one or whatever.
They do connect in the later films, but I
do.
always felt like it was something that they decided later on to retroactively try to
that.
write to make it like it was all connected. Look how clever we are, when it was not intentional up until the time where they were like, oh, we revealed it.
Yeah.
Right.
I am very much into. I've watched far too many hours of game theory FNAF.
Yes.
He's like, Scott Cawthon didn't come up with any of this shit when he wrote this game. But, like, they added it back together. I think this one was written together enough because they have the sisters, at least in the first two. It's like, it follows one sister for the first one, second sister, same actor for the second one, and her husband. And then past that, they could have, because then they jump back in time.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I'm definitely dive into the world of, I forget what's written by the actual writers and what's written by the fans. Like,
right.
oh.
Fans can come up with some theories that are so interesting that, like, you know that the sequels after that, they're like, write that down.
Yeah.
I feel like they weren't necessarily sequels, even though they were called sequels. I felt like they were movies in the same universe. They were like a universe movie. How like Batman and Superman are in the same universe, kind of thing.
Okay.
But they're like
the Paranormal Activity cinematic universe.
Exactly. Like that's how I looked at it. I was like, okay, cool. And then they just kept calling it the next one.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And like they all came out almost in the same time span of like 2-3 years.
Yeah,
and I was like,
they
oh my
had
gosh.
a long ass break, and then
Yeah. Which, good on them, because those movies made a lot of money and they're super cheap to make.
Yeah, no, they kept on budget, dude.
So I was like, good on them on how much money they made on those movies. It was very, very cool. Like being able to like show that you can make a very cheap movie and make it very good. But a lot of horror films do that, where horror films are very easy to make cheap.
Yeah.
Because fake blood is not expensive.
True.
Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Do you feel like they build on each other? Like, I feel like the answer might be yes from what you were telling me. That
I think they do.
how they kind of made the first one better because they kind of filled in the story as they went along, and then you get more explanation.
Yeah, this is one. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Is, I think I'm okay with things building on top of each other if they can answer the questions from before. They just don't, but that just feels like it's an extended, like, extra 2 hours of the first movie that we don't need. But if they answer those questions and then give you new ones, I'm happy. If they don't show me too much of the monster and they give me new questions, love it. Great. Do it again.
That's actually why I haven't watched A Quiet Place 2 yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just worried that they're going to... Because what I loved about A Quiet Place 1 is because it drops you right in the middle.
Yeah.
You don't know where the monsters came from, and you don't know how it ends. You just know that they're there, and these people are trying to survive. And I feel like that is fantastic writing. My grandfather, on the other hand, hates that. He's like, I want to know everything, and you need to tell me it all in 2.5 hours max.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
He's not going to be doing any thinking after this movie. All the thinking will be done
all
in the movie.
the thinking is done in the movie, and you will tell me what the answer is at the end.
Yeah. I feel that for every genre except horror. If I what was the dream one? Blah.
Inception?
Inception drove me crazy. I hated it. Like, just tell me what's going on. But if it's scary, if I'm scared by unknown, you're scared by the unknown. So that way I like more questions.
All right, I think I'm going to do one more. I think it's probably going to be our last one.
Cool.
I'm just going to rapid fire the ones that I have. If that's right with you guys.
Cool.
Okay, so Scream. Scream 1 was great. Wes Craven made an awesome movie. And what I liked is that they were very meta because all of these people who were in this movie grew up on slasher films. That was the joke. All of them knew how to survive a slasher movie. Don't get drunk. don't do drugs, don't have sex, you'll survive with a horror film. That was kind of the joke through the entire thing. And then they kind of flip the script on its head. You're like, oh, wow, one of us is the killer. And you're like, oh, that's kind of crazy. All of the ones after that tried to keep it meta, but kind of fell into the same trope as what they had before, where it's, oh, and now it's just a slasher film. And we're all going to fall for the same dumb antics that everybody falls for in horror films. The way that they try to keep it meta is that they had movies in those movies. Like the main three that survived in the first film go to a movie studio to help with the filming of a movie that is based on the events that happened to them in the first movie. And then people start dying. That might be the third one, but I know that it does happen. And you're just like, why? Why? The fourth one's good. They make fun of that there's 7 of them eventually. Like, hey, they just watched the 7th of this one movie that they're joking about. Also, Courtney Cox has like the worst haircut.
Is that the one with
the high,
terrible bangs?
the super high bangs that are like very like. Yeah. I feel like The Scream could have been a very good standalone film and did not necessarily need the sequels. I am appreciative of the sequels because they're very fun to watch. Child's Play. I love the first 2 Child's Play. The third one was okay. But Child's Play with Chucky. He's a serial killer who gets put inside of a doll that a mother buys in the back alley because she can't afford retail price of the same doll for her kid because it's the only thing he wants is he wants this doll. So she gets this doll. Her doll's possessed by a serial killer's soul. And the first 3 are very Child's Play. And then it turns into... They're dark comedies where the main character kills people after that. Because the next one that comes out is The Bride of Chucky. And then the one after that is The Seed of Chucky. Which are just comedies where they kill people. There's no horror, there's no suspense whatsoever in these movies. What I do like is that they did make new ones. The Curse of Chucky, very good. Because it goes back to the suspense horror of and everything like that. Like, and the main character's in a wheelchair. And like lives in a building with a 2-story building and is in a wheelchair, which makes it much more intense of trying to escape from Chucky. And then the ending of that is just great because he gets to go see Andy again, the kid from the first one, but he's an adult. They also do some great things, like if you notice through all the pictures of Chucky, like he always has like scars across his face and things like that, and it progresses to get worse and worse and worse as it goes along. In Curse of Chucky, he looks like a new doll. Everybody's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then eventually, when he's getting beaten up and different things happen to him, like these like prosthetic pieces start falling off and his scars come back because like he was just covering them up. And you're like, okay, this is actually a sequel to the Child's Play series. It was good. And then they recently made a TV series called Chucky. It's on its first season. I think it just came out. I have not watched it yet, but it seems promising. Well, it almost seems promising. I think it's on AMC, which is where The Walking Dead was.
Right.
And so I feel like it's going to have not the same vibes as that, but I feel like it's going to have the same level of gore and complexity. Like it's going to feel like it's about a serial killer, but they're not going to have very creative deaths because that would be too gory for TV.
Right.
Which is fine. Saw. I love the first Saw movie. Written and directed by James Wan. So those ones are good. And then James Wan wrote the second one, did not direct it. That one has Carrie Ewells in it from Princess Bride. And so like I feel like what happened is that the first one was very because what his main goal is, what are you willing to do to stay alive? What are you willing to do to live? And it's like, are you willing to kill other people? Are you willing to cut off your fingers? Are you willing to do all these things? It really leaned into that for the first film. And then the second one, and all the way until the end, is a bunch of different other people dying to the serial killer because he just captures people and just like starts killing them in more and more creative ways. And then it just turns into like this gore fest thing. What I did appreciate about it is that they kept the story arc about the cops trying to catch him through all of them, even though he's catching different people each time. There's
Sure.
like the same detective that's trying to like not the same detective. That's spoilers. But yeah, so like it kept like this like theme of people who know who he is. They're trying to catch him. The FBI's after him. All these other things. But I feel like they just kind of turned into like this like how creative can we get with killing people thing, and it's really lost that motif of what are you willing to do to stay alive, which really made the first one interesting to me. Then I want to talk about the last movie I want to talk about is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because the first one is scary, the second one is not. Specifically, it just seems like it's like they took the plot and they kind of just they didn't even turn it on their head. They didn't add to it or anything like that. What they did is that they're like, oh yeah, you remember those cannibals? Well, we're gonna bring them in and we're gonna introduce them much sooner because you already know about them. We don't need to keep them secret anymore. And then we have a bunch of people who are going to try to stop them from doing the thing. And you're like, great. So these town folk are like, let's stop them. And then there's a chainsaw duel where two people with chainsaws are fighting against each other, and it's as you do with chainsaws. It just gets very silly. Silly is the best way I could put it, because it's not like it's scary, but it's not like it's like dumb or bad. The movie wasn't like great, but I wouldn't call it bad. But it definitely was not the sequel I was hoping for, so it did not really help the first one. Unless you guys want to add a little bit?
I could do the 28 Days Later real quick.
Absolutely, let's do it.
It'll be really fast. I liked the first one. I didn't like the second one. I do not think the second one even needed to have the name 28 Weeks Later. It could have existed as a completely separate zombie and or contagion film and did not need to be related to the first one. They did not share it almost anything thematically outside of zombies.
Yeah, I agree earlier. I felt that the second one was an action film.
Yeah.
It's much more related to World War Z or Army of the Dead, where they're just like a group of people who are just trying to survive because they start killing other people. And it's not really about zombies per se anymore. It's mostly about like, where do we go next to survive? And like, because 28 weeks is a lot of time. That's, almost 3 months.
Yeah.
Around 3 months. And so you're just like, that's like a long time. And so they've been established and everything like that. So like, I get what they would have tried to do, but I feel like they didn't add that suspense. And I feel like the first one had a lot of like a shaky cam style portion of it, right?
Yeah, it was a lot more, it felt like really art house and a lot more emotional and introspective than I would say most zombie films are, especially the opening scene where he's walking through and he just woke up from whatever his coma and he's seeing the world as it is and experiencing like, oh, everybody's gone and all this happened while I was asleep. I don't feel like the second one had that tone whatsoever.
Oh, no. Have you watched these yet?
I haven't seen it.
You should watch the first
I
one.
want to,
Yeah, it's good.
The first one was worth watching.
The second one is if you're feeling like watching an action zombie movie, which in that case I'd just say watch World War Z.
Right.
Because World War Z actually kept like the science of it in it and everything too, where Brad Pitt's trying to find the cure for zombification and everything like that. Which I always love, because the cure for, or the way to get rid of zombies trying to chase you is to get a terminal illness, because then the virus doesn't want your body anymore because the body's terminal. Yeah, so like that then they're like, we don't want that person anymore. So they give each other like a terminal illness, like in a syringe inside the World Health Organization labs.
Do they disclose what the terminal illness is?
Yes, yeah. I just can't remember what the name of it is right now. Fun fact in that one, Peter Capaldi's in World War Z as World Health Organization doctor, and in the credits it says Who Doctor, and then he plays the doctor in Doctor Who.
That's cute.
As one of his next major roles, which I thought was really funny.
There was also one of the Ninth Doctor was in 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I was like, hey, that guy.
But yeah, so I'm glad we got your opinion on that. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think my last one was just that they need to stop showing the demon so much in Insidious.
Insidious?
It was great for the first hour and a half, and then it just went for
And
several movies.
how'd you-
At least another.
How'd you feel about Conjuring sequels?
Conjuring sequels, I liked it because it was like an anthology. They didn't try to connect it. They followed the two problematic main characters. But in the movies, love them. Love the characters. Hate the people. It was an anthology.
Anthology. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I also would say that doesn't, like, they're good movies, but they don't help the first movie.
Right, yeah.
Like, because they don't expand the story, they don't do anything like that. You're just like, maybe because the main characters they can move around with the main characters. Like, you could be like, okay, well, I'm getting more character development from the third movie or something like that, and I can relay that, and when I watch the first one, I can get that. Yeah. But I really wouldn't say that they're connected enough to actually, like, help with the plot or help with, like, oh no, ghosts or whatever.
Right,
yeah. Okay, so we're going to do our closing. Would you like to promote anything while we're sitting here and you have the platform? Steph, what would you like?
I help run a business called Media Queries. We do web development and design, specifically catered towards artists and creative therapists.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this, how clunky and a mess it was. My name is Mr. Enigma. You're listening to Mr. Enigma's Pop Culture Podcast. Thanks. Have a good one.